Happy Halloween.
Happy
Chris
Halloween.
Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. Whether you're on the right or on the left, thank you for coming here to be reasonable. Happy Halloween to you. You like my mask? I'm masked as a prepubescent male. Look, enjoy the treats tonight, because tomorrow the government is playing a horrible trick on 42 million Americans. I am going to do this very professionally, okay? And that is not easy for me, because nothing pisses me off covering government as blaming poor people as if they're the problem. Nothing pisses me off like that, okay? For the first time in U.S. history, the United States of America won't be able to pay to feed its poor people. The Democrats shut down the government by refusing to give in on the budgeting process in the Senate. That is the truth. And I have said shutdowns should be illegal, and that this is not the way to fight even the good fight, which I believe the Democrats have. Millions need insurance subsidies, especially in red states, more so in red states. But no matter where you live, all of us are going to see rates go up for health insurance thanks to this administration. You don't have to believe me. You'll get the letter just like I did, okay? I also think Democrats should focus on the subsidies and give the state reimbursement issue for emergency care for undocumented kids and adults, give it to MAGA. That's the stick they swing. Oh, we don't want to talk about health care because they just want to give free care to illegals. Give them the issue. You decide, MAGA. You decide what states get reimbursed for emergency care to kids and undocumented people. And then they own it, and they can leave the states hanging for money because they're going to have to give the care. Right fight to have is the subsidies. The shutdown is the wrong way to have it. Now, I know that's totally frustrating to you if you're a partisan. Oh, why can't he just say MAGA sucks? Oh, why can't he just say the Dems are trying to fund the illegals and they shut it down? Because it's not that damn simple, okay? And you want it to be simple, so you don't have to be a critical thinker, so you could just feel your way through it. And everyone on social media that gets paid to provoke you wants you to think it's simple, wants you to think it's one-dimensional, because that's how they manipulate you. But not on my watch, okay? There is no high ground for MAGA here, even though the Democrats did precipitate the shutdown. Why? Because they are punishing the poor on purpose, thinking that that pain and those optics will fuel the perception as reality in politics and make the Democrats lose. But not on the backs of the poor. MAGA is forcing people to go hungry by insisting on not using SNAP's already allotted reserve funds. How do we know? 2 federal judges say so, in suits that the government brought to not use the funds. Again, who brought the suits? The government. Why? Because they don't want to use the funds. These are facts. Now, as some of you take a break from the debate between NASA and Kim Kardashian about whether we landed on the moon, again, sign of the apocalypse, sign that we've lost the plot, okay? This is how stupid we're allowing ourselves to be. Now that that's taken a little break, people are hearing about this, and it looks terrible. The judges coming out and it popping up in your feed. Wait, the Trump administration doesn't want poor people to get food stamps? Yeah. And you know who knows it? The president. That's why he pivoted. And here's why I call it a pivot. Here's his statement. I've instructed our lawyers to ask the court to clarify how we can legally fund SNAP as soon as possible. If we're given the appropriate legal direction by the court, it will be my honor, caps, to provide the funding just like I did with the military and law enforcement pay. Okay. Let's do it slow and easy, all right? This is a series of untruths, okay? MAGA hung the military out to dry until there was outrage. Then they cobbled together money for it. They didn't do it when they first knew it was happening. That's the least of it, by the way, okay? The idea he has to wait on the courts First of all, the courts already gave you the guidance. Okay, so if you were waiting on the courts, you got the guidance. Second, the courts didn't have to give you any guidance because the reserve for SNAP was already in place. And if Trump wanted to feed the poor, not only is he not the kind of guy to wait. When have you ever heard him say, I'm waiting for the court to give me guidance? He always says, I don't need the court. And then if they do give guidance, he says that it's fake news or fake law, whatever, you know, activist judges, well, whatever. Now he wants guidance from the court? Of course not. If he wanted to feed the poor, he would not have had the government fight in the lawsuits claiming that they can't pay. Come on. This is not a close call, okay? And by messing with SNAP, here's the weird part. I took care of the military. Did you? Did you? Because if you mess with SNAP, guess who you're messing with? The military. Why? Shame upon shame. Not only does America, the richest country, have 1 in 8 of us needing help to eat, but that includes military families. 20,000 military families, 1.2 million veterans are on food stamps. Again, do not tell me that there is a real issue here, that it's not about MAGA wanting it this way. This is just how it is. That's not true. I can prove it. First, fact, last shutdown, 2019, Trump administration allowed SNAP to pay benefits out of the reserve fund. Same situation, different analysis. Why? You tell me. Second, as recently as September, the USDA, which is the agency that administers food stamps, wrote that in case of a shutdown, congressional intent is evident that SNAP's operations should continue since the program has been provided with multi-year contingency fund. Third, after the shutdown started, the USDA suddenly canceled and deleted that guidance. How convenient. What a coincidence. 4, the Trump administration has a new reckoning that it can only use the reserve funds if it's an emergency like a natural disaster, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, you know. The law says nothing like that. It is a reserve. It is not an emergency fund. 5, this is not my opinion. This is the opinion from the Government Accounting Office, okay? This is who we use in America to assess things of budgetary nature. The GAO says the funds can be used to pay for SNAP. 6, if this were a legitimate issue of whether or not they can, the woman running the program for the Trump administration would not rely on this completely prejudiced basis.
The problem is you have an extremely corrupt program. We're going to be talking a lot more about SNAP reform. We've got a lot of people listening now, which is very, very helpful. And to take that program back to its original intent of helping those who are truly needy in our communities, but not to have a massive welfare benefit where so many people are taking advantage of it that shouldn't be. The astronomical costs of the SNAP program under Joe Biden was historical. It was unprecedented, and we don't have the same levels of funding that were there in the past.
Man, look, you know how important it is to me that we learn how to disagree with decency, right? That we let conversation be the cure, that we find a way towards solutions. But man, I'm telling you, I cannot listen to this woman lie to you like that, hoping that you will never look up anything she just said. And Johnson, Mr. Rule by the Good Book. It is disgusting. Stop blaming the poor for being poor, all right? It's untrue and un-Christian, and I can prove it. The Christian part is easy. Love mercy. Do for the least of us. I mean, what is he nodding his head along on? Remember that when you're in service. How much of our budget is SNAP? How much of the federal budget? Take a guess. So much, so much. 2%. For every dollar we spend, we give fewer than 2 cents to feed the poor in the richest country in the world. Okay? Oh, and you know, but it's Biden. Biden did it. You know what Biden did? During the pandemic, when the poor and disabled needed it, He raised it. Guess how much? Guess how much they got? In largesse, the good life. $1.20 a day. That's corruption now. For the same people who are silent about the president pardoning a Chinese crypto criminal because he made his sons rich. But this is corruption. Not only is SNAP not a waste, it is a metaphor for what we're supposed to be about, a hand up for the most vulnerable. It is not a ticket to the good life. You couldn't live on this for 5 minutes. 4 in 10 of the people who get it are kids. 1 in 10 are 5 or younger. 16 million kids are in this catchment bowl that she's maligning as if they're just lazy and getting the good life while you're busting your ass. We're talking about extremely poor people. On average, people on SNAP make $500 a month after taxes. I can't believe they even pay taxes. Guess how much the government has given them? $6 a day. No one's quitting their job to get $6 a day in government cheese. Not only are there work requirements if you want food stamps, but you have to be able-bodied. Even if you quit your job for a reason that your former employer or the government doesn't like, you can't get it. You cannot get the assistance. And by the way, the program happens to work. You heard Stephen A. Smith say the other night he was a product of it. Okay? People are using it to go from poverty to independence. It's not my opinion. Okay? Here's the data. 1 in 4, 25%, leave the program within 4 months. Half leave within a year. 70% leave within 2 years. I mean, come on. Come on with the welfare queen stuff. They keep having more babies so they can get more money. These are lies. These are myths to make it easier to control you. That's what they are. I'm telling you, look, here's something else that is also true. I don't rely on this, but it matters to my producer, so I'm going to lay it out for you. I get that you don't want to spend any more of your money helping people that you don't think want to help themselves. I'm telling you that is not my understanding or my experience in covering this issue for 25 years. Are there lazy people who get government? Yes. Yes, there are. But not in any kind of degree that makes any kind of difference. And let them show me data otherwise. You notice how she didn't show you a damn piece of evidence of anything. We're going to be talking a lot coming up. I'm glad people are paying attention. No, you're not. So, what happens with SNAP money? Okay? For every dollar the government spends on SNAP, the GDP, according to the government's own research, increases by $1.50. $1 in, $1.50 into the economy. How? How? Even though, because if that's true, it's way more effective than a corporate tax cut, by the way. But why? Because people on SNAP spend their money almost immediately. Sales, demand, orders, generates more shipping, manufacturing, profits, increase. You know how the whole cycle of supply and demand works. Many local economies and small businesses are deeply reliant on people with food stamps. Why? Because they operate in places where everybody's broke in this crazy-ass, top-heavy society that we have, when there is a majority choking on affordability problems. The worst myth was Reagan did this. Welfare queen. Only black people are on food stamps. Disproportionate. You know who the biggest beneficiaries are? No surprise, white people, right? The most people are going to be the most representative. 35% white, 26% black, 16% Latino. All right? I mean, come on. Come on. We got to be better than this, all right? What Trump is telling you about this is not true, and I'm not going out of my way to criticize the President of the United States. There's been too much of it already. I think we got to get focused on solutions and how we get better. But you're not going to blame poor people for a condition that they don't control. And you're not going to try and take money from them to create pain and create optics and then say you're not doing it. No, not on my watch. Now, how do we get to a better place? Because all the reporting we're having, you heard from Leland Vittert earlier in the show, and you'll hear after tonight, is that, maybe next week, not until the elections, we don't want to give too strong a message, but, maybe after that. And if not, we'll probably go through around Thanksgiving. Really? Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.